this beautiful golden dome, and there's a crystal inside. There's a single ray of light that falls on it. And Mother says, I have placed my consciousness and force in that crystal to be the magnetic center. It's like the soul of Auroville. So everything needs a soul to animate it. So that is there. We are allowed to go inside, sit around and concentrate on that crystal. In integral yoga, they say, just sincerely open your heart, psychic being, spiritual being, whatever you can open to, open and keep. They say all life is yoga. Whether you're eating, sleeping, drinking, anything that you're doing, treat it all as a yoga. All life is yoga. Second is remember and offer. Whatever you're eating, sleeping or feeling, remember her and offer it to her in that moment. When we have to talk about greatness such as Mother Sri Aurobindo, you don't need PowerPoints. How much can you prepare? And I didn't prepare. I didn't prepare anything. And I just waited, as the yoga tells us too, that you empty yourself. You simply make yourself a nimitta matram, which is the instrument. Make yourself an empty instrument. And then so that when the inspiration has to come, it will come. And then you simply say what it needs to say to who is listening, right? So that was the approach I have taken for today's session. I have not planned it on purpose. The theme is the integral yogini, the mother, as the bridge from past dawns to future noons. And this comes from Sri Aurobindo's saying, we, that is all of us, humanity, do not belong to the past dawns, but to the future noons. So he keeps saying man is a transitional being. We are not yet evolved. We haven't yet arrived into the fullness of the potential that's inside us. So we are a transitional being as a species. We came out of the mineral into the plant, into the animal, into the human, and creation cannot be satisfied with such an incomplete version. There is way more to come. And those are not just going to be future dawns, but future noons, right? Noon is like the high noon of realization. And I want to focus today, therefore, on how it is the mother who takes us from the past dawns to the future noons. And today being 21st of February, it is the birthday of the mother. Her picture is here. Her name was Mira Alfasa. She was born on the 21st of February 1878. And the reason she's called the mother or divine mother is because she is considered, to those who know and experienced her, as an incarnation, a Purna incarnation of the Divine Mother. So India is a land that has seen avatars. What is an avatar? Avatar is not just a human who has evolved from one lower consciousness to the next, but actually the divine in its fullness who chooses to arrive into the level of creation. And when a time comes when the creation is stuck, that avatar descends to take it on to the next level of consciousness, right? So in this land of Odisha, the Dashaavatar is very popular. That, and it follows evolution so beautifully. The first incarnation of Vishnu was the Matsya, the fish. And then, so that's aquatic being. And then it becomes Kurma, the tortoise, which is the amphibian between water and land. Then is Varaha, which is the boar, right? And then comes Narsimha, which is the half man, half animal. Then Batu, which is the small man. And then is Parshuram, right? The angry man. And then is Ram, the more together sorted, a Purushottam, as they say, the perfected man, still a man. And then you have Krishna, who is the Purna avatar. So he is someone he's the divine man, right? And the time is still to come for, Buddha is considered the enlightened man. And now is the time for the final avatar, which is called Kalki. People who follow Sri Aurobindo and the mother, some of them say Sri Aurobindo was an aspect of Kalki because he came to show what is to come. the next evolution, the next stage of consciousness. So what if we are a mentalized consciousness, as a species, we are led by the mind. Animals are not led by the mind. Animals are led by the instinct. So this mind is as yet undeveloped, undivinized. In the next rung of evolution, the next step, this mind will become divinized. That divine mind is called the supermind, or what Sri Aurobindo called the supramental. So that has to descend as a level of consciousness. It has to descend into this terrestrial plane for us to be able to receive it and manifest it. It's like fish can only swim in water. If there is no water, there will be no fish. Right? So until the supramental consciousness or field of energy descends and takes hold in this terrestrial atmosphere, there can be no beings who can embody at that level. So that descent of Supermind took place on the 29th of February 1956. So in the yoga of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, this was a huge milestone event. Huge one. That Mother says, I was in the playground and I had a big golden hammer. She said I was in a form bigger than the universe. I had a big golden hammer. And there was this golden lid that separated our dimension from the supermind. And I said, the time has come. I willed it. And then with one single stroke, I smashed that lid. It broke open. And then the stream of golden light started flowing in wave upon the planet. And so since that day, in a way, we have started receiving, we are flooded in the grace and the descent of the supramental consciousness. So then it's up to us. Do we have the dharana shakti, the patrata as it's called? Do we have the capacity to bear, receive and express and embody, right? So it's now for us to seek for that in order to express that. It is here already. That's the amazing part. And they said this supramental energy alone can give us the immortal body. The level of consciousness that existed on the planet did not allow for matter to express divinity. But with this new energy, matter can get divinized, can get supramentalized. We will have what's called a supramental body, which will be like a red gold body. It can bilocate, it can, become very small and very big, and, so the Ashtasiddhis that are described in some of our texts, Garima, Laghima, and so on. Except that in the past, it would happen to a few people. But this yoga was for all of humanity, right? Saying the species has to evolve. And so far, evolution has happened through an inner process where the individual wasn't involved. The plants just appeared out of the minerals. The higher consciousness worked on evolving species out of species. For the first time, we have a species which is called humanity, Homo sapiens, that has the capacity to think. So for the first time on the planet, there is a species that's capable of participating and expediting its own evolution, and doesn't have to wait for millennia upon millennia for the next rung of creation to appear, right? So this is why that avatar took place. And Sri Aurobindo would always say, the mother and I are not separate. We are one and the same. We just have taken on two bodies. So I know in today's modern language and romance, we're all looking for our twin flame, and where is my twin flame? From what I understand, twin flames will not just happen to the average person who hasn't sufficiently developed their consciousness. My understanding, and even if you do meet them, the capacity to even hold each other becomes so impossible that you will break the vessel in some way. You're not able to stay together. It's very, very hard. So twin flame is like the same soul that has a masculine aspect and a feminine aspect, the Shiva Tattva and the Shakti Tattva, so to speak, element, the Shiva element and the Shakti element. They appear in two bodies only because in this dimension we are still in a realm of duality and polarity. That is why the one becomes the two in embodiment. So Sri Aurobindo, Mother would say, I am Sri Aurobindo Shakti, right? So therefore, in a way, he is her Shiva, right? And the avatar takes double role like this, which is why, you had a Ram and a Sita. They come in a double role because they have come to do a far greater work. They haven't come for themselves. And you need the full complement of the divine to be here for the kind of force and energy needed to shift and evolve consciousness at that time, right? So they did not come as vibhutis. Vibhutis are portions of the divine that do come. You'll have many beautiful, Guru Ma and this one and that one, and there are Babas, and you go and worship them and you think they are powerful divine beings. Yes, they are, but they may be vibhutis. Avatar is when the full complement comes down, right? And that is what Sri Aurobindo is considered. He's an avatar. And the mother and he are not two. They are one. They happen to be in two different bodies. And when people ask, who is she? You can experience the Divine Mother in other forms. Okay, you wish to worship Mother Mary or anyone, any aspect of the Mother can take you to the Divine Mother. But in this time, in the 1900s, we had someone like her who walked the planet. So who she really is, this is a statement from his magnum opus Savitri. It's lines from Savitri. At the head she stands of birth and toil and fate. In their slow round the cycles turn to her call. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. So the mother is, according to Sri Aurobindo, the Divine Mother alone can bring about the shifts and changes we need, because what is ruling the planet here is not our little mini egos. What is ruling the planet here are profound archetypal forces, transpersonal forces, still rooted in profound inconscient darkness. And so Hitler was one such. So when the mother takes birth to say the time has come for the new species to arrive, the coming of someone like a Hitler, the happening of the two world wars, as Sri Aurobindo says, they were mother's wars, right? It was the darkness rushes in to fight the advent of the light, right? It wants to hold on to the old the ways, right? So there are so many sightings during Normandy landing, Dunkirk and so on, where the soldiers saw a being they describe, and basically like Sri Aurobindo. That's because he said, I was there. I had to project and be there and hold that scene, hold that moment. And you do know, like when the British were landing on the coast of Normandy, they were like sitting ducks. And they could have all been killed. But suddenly out of nowhere, this kind of cloud and storm came, which blinded the radars and things. And so the Germans were not able to actually see it. And the British had the cover of nature, so to speak. And again, that was not an accident, right? So we don't realize, of course, we have become so scientific, we don't believe in many of these things. But there is a reason that in the old days, all the kings would pray to their gods, right, to win their wars, because they knew that this war isn't only between that human and this human. It's between my God and whoever is the power with me versus whoever is the power with them, right? So you had to go and really call on your God, whoever you considered your power, your higher power, right? So Sri Aurobindo and Mother definitely stood behind the Allies. They're very clear on that, saying even though the British at that time were colonizing India, and Sri Aurobindo was one of India's most feared of freedom fighters he was called the most dangerous man in India by the British. But when it comes to fighting the world wars, Mother and Sri Aurobindo put their force behind the Allies, because they saw, should Hitler have won the war, evolution would have been taken back several millennia, right? So what we don't realize is there are we're like a onion, telescoped levels of levels, that it's not just one little game happening between one country and another country. There's evolution happening at a millennial stage. There are so many dimensions that need to be worked out so that evolution continues and doesn't get stopped. At one level, you may see these as the bad guys, but at another level, those forces are serving a higher outcome, right? So when you come to Pondicherry, you will notice everything about the work is towards evolution of consciousness. And they talk about getting past religion, getting past creed and caste and so on. So you have people from all over the world. We don't have any idols we worship. We may go to the samadhi. The samadhi is where Mother and Sri Aurobindo's bodies are kept. And as they say, we may have just dropped the body, but that was just a tiny portion of what we are. The rest of us is here. And in fact, we have found other ways and more powerful ways of continuing to do the work. So body was a mere instrument. It was like a set of clothes. We discarded that, but the work continues, right? So if she built a township called Auroville, saying we need to work out human unity. Let's create a little incubator. Today the word is incubator, right? So it was a laboratory of consciousness where they appealed to the government of India to give 20 square kilometers of land, and an entire township is building there. That will create a regenerative, new way, a conscious way of living. So Mother says, Auroville is the city the world needs. And once you go there, there is no city. It's all forest, and there are people living in tree houses, and then they're building amazing things out of a kind of local material, but the brick is such that the heat stays out and the cool stays in. And so whether it is the agriculture, whether it is the energy that they are working out, tremendous, tremendous work on what is the city the future needs. How can we create that like a little laboratory of consciousness? So Auroville with the Matri Mandir in the center, you may have seen pictures of this beautiful golden dome, and there's a crystal inside. There's a single ray of light that falls on it. And Mother says, I have placed my consciousness and force in that crystal to be the magnetic center. It's like the soul of Auroville. So everything needs a soul to animate it. So that is there. We are allowed to go inside, sit around and concentrate on that crystal. So these are powerful experiences. So when you come to Pondicherry and you come to that whole kshetra, just like you come to Puri, and if you have the senses and the capacities to receive, you know what's special and divine about a place like this. So in the same way, when you come to Pondicherry, even if you have small opening of your psychic being, of your soul, you will feel it. You will feel that we float in grace. And every day there will be a little sign of how you are taken care of, because she is the mother. She loves everyone. She's in charge of the whole world. And yet each one of you feels like you are personally her little child and you're being taken care of her, provided your soul is open. So as the psychic being is the soul portion in each of us, and that soul portion is a portion of the Divine Mother. Just like a child has come out of the mother, our psychic being, our soul, has come out of the Great Mother. So if you know how to open to that aspect of yourself and you're in touch with that aspect of yourself, you will feel her. You will feel her presence. You will know her grace. And the synchronicities that happen, you tear up on a daily basis, and maybe I'll just share a little bit about my experience in the last 1 year. My father played tennis with the mother before I was born. That is my connection to her. He was a naval officer, and his ship came to Pondicherry. And they were told to go call on the mother, because Sri Aurobindo is a very highly regarded freedom fighter. So he said, go call on the mother. She said, no one comes to meet me. I wish to play tennis. I want to practice my game. And she was already in her 80s by then, okay? That is how much she wanted that youthfulness, that she didn't believe in aging, right? I want to practice my tennis game. Send me your best tennis player. My father happened to be a tennis player. This poor boy from a village in Odisha, whose father couldn't afford his books for his college, who then had to leave home at 15 to go join the Navy so the Navy could educate him, who became an engineer, but the Navy taught him to be a boxer and a tennis player. And so he gets chosen, he and another man, and they went and played tennis with the mother. So who knows what happened then, right? Because they say when the mother used to play, she said her forehand, the way she hit it, it's like she was hitting universes out of whack, She was, the potency with which she played her game. So I often think that was no accident. There must have been a reason and a purpose in everything she did. So years later, I come to Mother and Sri Aurobindo through my own path and my own journey. I've been a follower since the year 2002, very, very actively. I started coming to Pondicherry since 2005, so a good 19 years or so, been coming regularly. And then I would hope and dream, Ma, you think I can ever find a home to live here? I would look at everyone, they cycle around on their little shorts and their kitty caps, and they're so comfortable. I belong here, I belong to the Pondicherry, I belong to the ashram, and all we outsiders coming for 2, 3, 4 days, look at them longingly. And then out of the blue, after the last Shakti Kumbh, it was an act of grace. We were in Auroville for the last Shakti Kumbh. So I took about another 2 weeks out to say, let me try and buy a house here. I found a place within 3 days. I found this little 2-bedroom apartment. And within a week, I bought it, which has never ever happened. And I announced it to my father. He was almost dying. I told him on the 21st, I bought it on the 21st of March, 24. And then I told Dad on the 23rd that, Dad, I got the house. And he was very concerned, and I'd walked out of the marriage, and he said, where are you going to live? How are you going to manage? And I said, I got a house, Dad. He was so happy. Those were his last words to me. And he died the next day. And not only did he die the next day, on the 24th of March, 24, within a week, no, not a week, a month, probably exactly a month, I took my mom to get her ulcer checked in her tongue, which she'd been nursing away because she was full-time caregiver to Dad. Cancer, that little ulcer turned out to be cancer, right? So, and it started spreading pretty quickly. So I quit my job in Mexico, came back to India, brought her from Delhi to Pondicherry, by which time this little 2-bedroom tapasya cave apartment had been set up very sweetly. It's a 7-minute walk to the Samadhi. And so my mother spent the happiest 1 year of her life. And the synchronicities that happened on a daily basis. There is no question that it was the mother's love and her grace that was just holding us till the very last day, and even beyond, So I would say to people, I feel when a car drives into the clouds in the high mountains, you're breathing the cloud, right? In the same way, when you live in a Pondicherry, you are breathing the grace. You can't not breathe her. Her presence, her grace, her potency is there. Your heart just needs to be open, and your call has to be there. She says every prayer is answered, every call is met. She says that. The compassion with which she says that. So I have so many stories of synchronicity. So coming back to the concept of simplicity and purity and the opening of the soul to as a child of the mother. If you don't have that faith, others will describe it as, oh, that's just a mere coincidence. Oh, that's just a story you're making up. But those of you who know what I'm talking about, you know when that connection happens, your life changes, and the sweetness of that bond with the great mother, and how she supplies, how she nourishes, and how life is never the same again, never the same again. I have so many wonderful stories of this last year. You start walking in grace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, let me just explain why the mother is important in this great yoga. Because at a human level, we can't really overcome all our lower tendencies. The lower tendencies are not ours. They are archetypal transpersonal forces that move us, that possess us, right? Including nations, including a Hitler, including all the people you wish to name today, right? So they're not going to be just taken off by some good leader coming and fighting the bad leader. No. These are big forces on one side, battling big forces on the other side. And the prize is evolution, right? So that is why Sri Aurobindo, through his yoga, had arranged for the incarnation of the Divine Mother, because only when the Divine Mother herself becomes present in this evolution, the game, from inside can she work it out. It is only her light, her force, that can transmute the darkness of the Asura. Right? We can't. We can't. So therefore, it's called the Mother's Yoga. In integral yoga, they say, just sincerely open your heart, psychic being, spiritual being, whatever you can open to, open and keep. They say all life is yoga. Whether you're eating, sleeping, drinking, anything that you're doing, treat it all as a yoga. All life is yoga. Second is remember and offer. Whatever you're eating, sleeping, or feeling, remember her and offer it to her. In that moment to moment, from brushing your teeth to going to bed at night, remember and offer. Do it with her. Include her in it. Right? And the last is divinize everything. There is no, this moment is when I am with God and this moment is when I'm without. Divinize everything, because all life is yoga. Right? So once we learn to, each one of us practice that way, she can enter into us and through us make us the instruments, where eventually there will be a sufficient number of us who can create the tipping point, right? Create that shift, that 100th monkey syndrome, right? You know the story of the 100th monkey. So we need her, and she's working in us and through us. The good news is she's working by herself as well. Because, regardless of whether or not we are going to be ready. So there's another very wonderful quote from her. She says, the future of the earth depends on a change in consciousness. And the change is bound to come. But it depends upon us whether we will collaborate or have it forced upon us by the power of crashing circumstances. So wake up and collaborate. So the shift in consciousness is going to come, but we have to collaborate. And if we don't collaborate, we'll be dealt with. It's going to happen. Thank God. That's the good news. And after the supramental descent happened, she said it could take, depends on the readiness of all the people. Some things could take a short time. It could take 300 years. Who knows? She couldn't give us a date. She didn't want to give us a date. But it's here. And depending on how many of us are open and ready. And you can see, I remember I started my spiritual journey from 1998. And, I started yoga around that time. And suddenly yoga became this thing around the world. And so you can see how this thing is multiplying exponentially, right? So if there are sufficient number of us ready to receive and open, we can bring the new creation much faster. Otherwise, it has to do it on its own. So at the head, she stands of the birth and toil and fate. In their slow round, the cycles turn to her call. Alone her hands can change time's dragon base. We can't do the yoga. She does the yoga. We have to give ourselves to her, so she does the yoga. It's not ours to do, because what we're dealing with, we can't handle. Only she can handle. Right? It's Mother's yoga. And in conclusion, I want to share a very beautiful short film. I think some of you have watched it today. It was a message she gave out on her 90th birthday. And she kept that body till the age of 95. And most of the videos of her are later on in life, because the early years there was not that much photography or filming and so on. So much of the work you see on YouTube, for example, you'll see this frail woman, in a body that with eyes that are blinking, and it's hard for you to relate that really is this the Divine Mother, and her voice trembles and so on. But she would laugh and say, I can't help this body being like this, I'm trying to make it, I'm trying to divinize it. And so she tried to stay in the body as long as possible. And then finally, I think what she did, and this is my personal intuition, so I don't say it's written anywhere, I believe she reached a point where her body where matter was still not, because the dark forces were still not surrendering, so the body was still holding on to its old ways. So I think she made a choice. She decentralized herself. She probably, by now, the supramental force had entered into her cells and she was doing yoga of the cells. She said salvation is physical. Finally, it is the cell that turns divine. When each cell can divinize itself, the body will be a divine body. So the real battle was at the level of the cell, right? So since she had accumulated so much of the supramental force in her cells, it's like pollen grain, she must have said, let me decentralize, let these immortal cells fly around. You know how many of you have studied genetics and gene splicing and viruses and so on? What is a virus? It's just something that holds a little amount of genetic code, and then it enters the cell of a person and it splices itself into the genetic material of the host cell. And then from there, when it starts multiplying, then you get a new thing coming out because now the genome has changed. Mutation. The whole evolution has happened through positive mutations. Negative mutations cause cancers and so on, but every once in a while, a positive mutation takes place. That is how evolution has happened, right? Animals came out of plants because of a positive mutation. Humans came out of animals because of a positive mutation. It's my sense, she decided, let my cells become like these little viruses, like she would use the word a positive contagion, right? So imagine sending that out into the world and finding the receptors, finding enough bodies that her genetic material could get into and start doing the work of transmutation and mutation, so to speak, but in a positive way. And it'll be so much faster if she herself had managed to divinize her body. Kaya Kalpa has been known in this land for thousands of years, okay? Yesterday we went and saw the Samadhi of Totapuri Maharaj, who is supposed to have lived 200 plus years, right? So the individual, Mother said, I'm not doing this yoga for myself. If it was only Sri Aurobindo and me who had to become immortals, we could have done it. Easy, right? But what we have come to do is for the species, right? So there's a better chance of all those trillions of cells having entered all of us all over the world and then eventually mutating themselves through us into that new positive expression, right? The supramental self. And apparently there will be intermediaries before the full supramental being appears. There will be transitional steps that are, we won't go from man to Superman in one leap. Apparently there may be one or two iterations, prototypes before we get there. So therefore her whole thing was youth, youth, youth. She's saying, we have to be hero warriors. We have to remain youthful. She said, death is a falsehood. It's a bad habit that our cells have learned. We have to unlearn that because the cell is capable of divinity and therefore immortality, right? So she says, stay youthful. Do not buy into the stories and beliefs that you have to grow old, you have to get disease, you have to die. Release all that. Detox yourself from all those belief systems. Stay youthful in your mind. Stay growing all the time. And then there is hope that my force can continue to do its work in you. Okay? So we'll end with this video on her 90th birthday.